an underground bunker.
The president just now coming down the steps of Air Force One, a Secret Service agent following him very closely behind. He salutes to the Air Force officers and gets into a black sedan. We are pulling through the base now. There are armed riflemen blocking some of the roadways, one of them in a kneeling position. There has been protection like this everywhere we've gone since we left Florida this morning.
There is just a little brick building with a door. And the building is basically not much bigger than the door itself. And opens the door and they all go down these stairs, just right down. Because they're going to this underground, fortified, concrete reinforced war command center. Created for the nightmare of a nuclear attack.
There were only a handful of journalists inside Kabul at that time, and the Taliban had forced us all to live in the Intercontinental Hotel. So we were all sort of gathered on one floor, and people seemed to instinctively come to CNN's office to find out what was happening when this news began to filter out.
The initial assumption was that this had something to do, or at least they were looking into any possible connections with Osama bin Laden.
We were told that the Taliban foreign minister was going to make a press statement, and we said that could he make it in the hotel, because that's something that we wanted to cover live.
Does the Taliban categorically condemn these attacks on the United States?
And first of all, he started to say that this was something that the Afghans at the Taliban had tremendous sympathy for.
We criticize terrorism in all its forms.
He said that he didn't believe that Osama bin Laden could be involved because he said this was far too complex an attack for him, and that this was, you know, he was just a simple man living in Afghanistan at that time.
Can you rule out any involvement by Osama bin Laden?
No one has blamed or accused him formally.
They wanted to show their sympathies to the world, and they also wanted to say at that point, early on, 4 hours after the attacks, that Osama bin Laden wasn't involved.
Thank you.
Just in the last few seconds, another building, building number 7, one of the buildings in support of the World Trade Center towers, has collapsed. This is no small building, as you can see, at 47 stories. It would stand out in most American cities.
As all this rubble adjusted itself, more buildings came down. The fire consumed more buildings. The structure of the buildings that were there was compromised and kept teetering.
You hear that? Keep your eye on that building. It'll be coming down soon. I don't want to be you.
Yet still there were no people coming out of it. And I think that was one of the things that really stayed with me after that, is I kept thinking, well, you know, maybe when everything calms down, more people are going to come out and they're going to rescue more people. But there was just no noise coming from down there. So we kept walking sort of around the disaster area, trudging through this snow-like substance. It's like the interior of this building. There was pieces of their desks and pieces of the photos on their desks and their Rolodexes and documents. See, I found this woman's resume. It was a resume from a kid that had gone to my college who was applying for a job to work in the World Trade Center. It was very much like a weird movie, like, you know, the day after, like a nuclear accident or a nuclear winter. It didn't make any sense. So what do you have now? Do you have a sense of anger? Is it fear? What do you...
Right now, I just hope everybody is safe that can be saved. The people that are dead, well, what can you do for them? Just pray for their loved ones, you know, that's all.
And what about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of people being found in the debris.
Ready to go.
There was a huge part of that day where I became a little bit obsessed with how many people, because we knew that how many people worked in the buildings. We knew that there were thousands. And we knew that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people that were rescuing them. And there was some point at the day where I stopped doing that because it just suddenly occurred to me that, God, it didn't really make any difference how many people had died because every single loss of life was going to be so painful.
Put your mask on. Put your mask on.
I remember one of the first things about Rudy Giuliani.
The situation is that 2 airplanes have attacked, apparently.
One of his first press conferences, somebody asked him about the death penalty. He said, "It is going to be more than any of us can bear."
The effort now has to be to save as many people as possible.
There was absolutely no evasiveness in his language. Giuliani got up and said, "This is as horrible as you can imagine and maybe worse."
We lost the deputy chief of the fire department and the chief of the department. Deputy Commissioner Feehan, Chief Gansey, Father Judge, and Ray Downey, who I just gave a party for at Gracie Mansion for his years of service to the fire department, who led our team in the Oklahoma City bombing rescue. We've also lost him.
What we can tell you tonight is the city is confirming that some 265 firefighters are believed to be dead, some 85 police officers missing tonight. It was very difficult for anyone to get this information because of the horror everybody was dealing with downtown. You know, the last thing the police and fire department was interested in doing was trying to finalize numbers for us. They were saving lives.
We can only surmise that we are talking in the hundreds, the thousands of people.
I think even those out there who may not believe that there is a God, at a time like this, we all reach out for a higher being.
I remember saying on the air, God rest their souls, because you could only imagine how many people were in there. Of course, we had no way of knowing. I mean, at one point they said something like 10,000 people could be in there. You know, it turned out to be just under 3,000, but, you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, the numbers are just mind-boggling.
This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. The Twin Towers are on the ground level. The destruction is enormous. Enormous. God save our country and what was done to it today.
A pointed display of bipartisan unity at this critical moment in U.S. history.
I think it was just off the cuff. Somebody started singing. I think they learned something out of being stuck in the same bunker together for a few hours.
We're told that Air Force One is expected to land in about 15 minutes. We're also told it's being flanked by 3 U.S. Air Force fighter jets.
Occasionally on an international trip or because of weather, you'll look out the window and you'll see a fighter jet go by. A very rare occasion. And when they brought the plane back this time, he was escorted, as you see in the movies. One of those moments where there are jets on the wings.
President Bush just landing only a few minutes ago at Andrews Air Force Base, returning to the White House, getting ready to address the nation around 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. Marine One is the helicopter that has the president on board and lands on the south lawn of the White House, which is the routine procedure when the president returns to the White House from Andrews Air Force Base.
Their goal at the moment was almost more than what he said, was to show the president is at the White House. And they feel secure enough that the president can be at the White House. It's psychology, if you will, to the country, that the government is there is stability, there's a crisis, but that they're on top of it. Just the picture of the helicopter landing and the president walking in, and then the president on television from the White House, was meant to convey a message of, you know, they tried to knock our government out, they failed.
Do you want to be angry? Do you want to sort of tap into the country's sense of fury about this and the loss of life? Do you want to try to be reassuring? Do you want to be more calming? And what do you possibly tell the country at the end about what you're going to do and how this is all going to work? These are enormous challenges.